For the unatoned sins of their fathers, the dues became the birthright sealed in blood. The fleeting spikes of victory paled by the true reward. The everlasting glory of a legacy sustained through generations. Conor Benn, the younger of the two at 28, moved up to 160 pounds for the first time in his career to take on 35-year-old Chris Eubank Jr., who fluctuates between 160 and 168 pounds, but has since settled into the middleweight division since 2022. Conor Benn, a seek and destroy pressure fighter, has seen his knockout power wane in recent years, yet his athleticism and explosiveness remain undiminished, enabling him to close the gap quickly and unload sharp, rapid-fire combinations. Where his early career was marked by rawness and wild aggression, Benn has since matured, developing improved timing, more thoughtful shot selection, and a greater sense of patience in the ring. However, his greatest vulnerability lies in his defensive lapse, an occasional lapse in discipline, moments when his aggression spills over into recklessness. Chris Eubank Jr. is a high-volume boxer puncher, a pressure fighter driven by a high pace of volume combinations. Blessed with speed, athleticism, and sharp reflexes, he fights with a low lead hand and a slick defense. However, his tendency to abandon discipline at range is a persistent weakness. Eubank often finds himself drawn into the heat of battles, where his appetite for volume punching can both fuel his offense and expose himself to unnecessary risk. When you're faced 3 former world champions, one of the biggest lessons you learn is how to control a young aggressor, making him burn through a significant portion of his gas tank in the early half of the fight. That control starts when managing distance, primarily through movement and the jab. Eubanks doesn't need to chase Benn. He knows Benn will come to him. The strategy then is to use the jab to clog the attacking lanes and step in sync with Benn's movements, forcing Benn to be the one who initiates the attack and closes the distance from the outside. This gives Eubank sufficient time to react to any advance. The critical moment between these two fighters comes when Benn is forced to initiate. At that point, either Eubank catches Benn as soon as he opens up, disrupting any follow-up, or Benn must find a way to draw Eubanks' jab and make him mistime it to create his own openings. The danger lies in Conor's explosiveness. He can load his legs and launch himself forward, closing the distance in a single burst. He's also incredibly durable, so if Eubanks' jab doesn't have enough heat behind it, Conor is able to eat it and immediately fire back with his own. This dynamic makes the matchup all the more exciting, because Eubanks does have a slick defense. Even if you manage to land a punch on him, he knows how to roll with the shot and exit out, resetting the range to begin the game of distance control all over again.
The Ring Magazine's inaugural event, it's Eubank Jr and Benn, and it's the power to shake his nemesis. It looks like something's gone out of Chris Eubank Jr. It's a big round for...
It's always easier to lean to the body than to the head. To hold ground, Eubank relied on the stab jab to the body. This served several purposes. First, with Conor attacking in straight lines, a well-timed stab jab had enough force to halt Benn's forward momentum, stopping him in his tracks. It was also effective at disrupting the bouncing rhythm Conor used to garner momentum for bursting in. However, this tactic wasn't without risk. Eubank had to drop levels while stepping in order to land a stab jab, which exposed his head to Conor's right hand if the jab didn't succeed in pushing him back. But let's not forget, a counter can always be countered. The battle for distance was layered with constant threats. Among his toolbox, Eubank also had a sharp check hook. This punch not only allowed him to catch Conor coming in from his blind side, but the motion of the check hook also enabled Eubank to roll away from the potential right cross that often followed Conor's jab. The jab battle ensued as both boxers vied for control of distance, neither willing to concede an inch of ground. Conor began to demonstrate his ability to hold his ground once he began timing Eubank's persistent jab. The moments he managed to neutralize it, he made sure Eubank paid with punishing counters.
And boys, I'm looking at your scorecards. You've got it 3.
This was significant, as much of Eubank's offense depended on the threat of his jab. All bad habits eventually get exposed with time. Conor, whose defense isn't the most sophisticated, often relied on pulling straight back to defend or exit. With Eubank's 4.5-inch reach advantage, he was able to step in as Conor pulled straight out, exposing the opening from underneath. The opening quarter of the fight was fiercely contested. While Eubank managed distance control, it was Conor who was pressing and dictating more of the fight.
That's better. He's got to roll the dice more.
He too kept catching Eubank pulling straight back. Eubank was gradually increasing his output, but it was in the 6th that the fight took a turn. Abandoning his earlier strategy of boxing from range, Eubank chose to lock horns with the bull.
And Conor Benn seeking out that uppercut. Eubank busier here.
This made things difficult for Conor, since unlike him, Eubank was able to fight going both forward and backward.
Eubank's in front though, surely.
He is now for me, I think that's a lovely look.
But Conor Benn has come out like a man.
As the naturally bigger man, Eubank had already felt Conor's power, especially after getting rocked in the 3rd. But he was confident he could handle it. Conor, who had always been the aggressor throughout his entire career, would be at a disadvantage anytime he was forced to fight off his back foot. At that moment, as if a switch had been flipped, the bout erupted into a full-blown firefight.
Benn, the smaller man, will that weight affect Eubank down the stretch? Jab from Eubank is good, he's accurate, and the right hand there, and he could...
The fight unfolded into a series of back-and-forth exchanges, revealing who was the better schooled boxer. At such a furious pace, with both men throwing and high volume, there was little room for thought, only instinct and reaction. It's in these very moments muscle memory is only as reliable as the hours of repetition put in at the gym. It became very clear which fighter was thinking through the chaos. Eubank was more deliberate with his shot placement, varying his punch selection to constantly break patterns and timing. Although he was getting caught, Eubank blended his defense into his offense, slipping and rolling with the punches, alert to Conor's return fire when pressing offensively. Conor undeniably fought with a brave heart but lacked nuance. His bulldozing approach was too direct. He was fighting, not boxing. Each time Eubank engaged, Conor would plant his feet and indiscriminately fire back, eating everything Eubank had to throw his way. Conor's lack of defense was clearly visible, as if his offense was his defense. There were no rolls, little head movement, and a lack of guard, as his hands were consumed with punching instead of defending. The difference in the punch mechanic was stark. Conor loaded up and swung wide, intent on finding that finishing blow. Eubank, on the other end, threw clean, sharp punches, firing straight from his guard, turning his hips and following through with precision. One man was swinging for power, the other for accuracy. The copybox stats told the story of the fight. Eubank threw a staggering 912 punches to Conor's 593, outlanding him by 152 shots. One of the key reasons Conor struggled to keep control was due to his lack of jab. He landed just 35 throughout the entire bout, whereas Eubank's jab was the spearhead to his strategy. Great respect must be given to both fighters. Conor, the smaller man, entered the ring and managed to rock Eubank on several occasions. Yet Eubank, no spring chicken himself, faced his own set of challenges. One could debate who truly bore the greater disadvantage that night, but it was clear Eubank brought the broader set of skills to the fight. In the end, they each left a part of themselves in the ring, a sacrifice not only for the crowd's applause, but for the honor of their family names.